How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another video with the Diabetes Management Group. This video is specifically for caregivers, family members, friends, or someone who will be celebrating Thanksgiving with someone with type 2 diabetes or prediabetes. We're going to go through a list of do's and don'ts, some story examples, and it's going to be a great time. So the first off is do not try something new for the holidays. It may seem lucrative with all the sugar-free labeling on all the different products that are out there. If the person with type 2 diabetes or prediabetes has not used or have eaten or consumed any of those products before, do not test it out during Thanksgiving. It might make the situation worse. In fact, like what if the ingredients for one of those sugar-free products contains an allergy that the person with type 2 diabetes or prediabetes has, or something that they're not aware of, and it causes their blood sugars to go like crazy because of an allergic reaction or because they're stressed about eating something that they're not used to. And stress can cause blood sugars to go up because of releasing more cortisol and other stress hormones, which is not a good situation. Instead, do encourage pairing the fast-acting carbs that they plan to eat, if it's the dinner rolls, if it's the pie, if it is the stuffing, all those other fast-acting carbs with lean protein and fiber. So if the lean protein is turkey breast, chicken breast, or if the Thanksgiving is going to look like cooking eggs on the side, or whatever that may be, having more of that lean protein will help slow down the digestion process of those faster acting carbs so that the blood sugars are more stable. So a general rule of thumb is if someone is wanting to have their carbs and everything, then like a fistful of carbs with a palmful of the lean protein, that could be pretty helpful. So another thing that they could utilize too is incorporating more fiber-rich foods with their plate, because the fiber-rich food also slows down the digestion process of the fast-acting carbs so that the blood sugars are more balanced and steady throughout the day. Some examples that someone can use is steamed green beans, which is sauteed in some olive oil and some garlic and seasoned lightly with salt and pepper. That's a good way to do it. Or roasted Brussels sprouts, coated in a vinaigrette. That's going to be a good way to help it out. Also, make sure to try to limit the amount of fats that are going into it, because some of the foods that'll be already basted with butter or a different type of oil. So the calories can be a lot higher, which generally means the blood sugars will then be increased like 4 to 6 hours after the meal. So generally try to stick with as little amounts of fats as possible, because the fats are going to be sneaking in different parts of the meal that it can add up over time. So try to be smart with it. Lean protein, high in fiber, that's going to help significantly in keeping those blood sugars more in control when preparing those dishes for that person with type 2 diabetes or prediabetes. Do not assume that the person with type 2 diabetes or prediabetes can or cannot have something. Ask them for their consent, because after all, type 2 diabetes and prediabetes, how their blood sugars responds, it's all a numbers game in that situation. Because if there's a fast-acting carb, they can have it if they pair the right things with it. So for example, if someone's going to have their meal, and let's say that their plate is going to be filled with a fast-acting carb, fiber, lean protein, the best ways to utilize that is if we can have that fast-acting carb be like a slice of pie, and the fiber being the green beans or the Brussels sprouts, and then the protein being the turkey breast or the chicken breast or the other type of protein, and that's going to help with keeping those blood sugars more balanced. Or if that slice of pie, they will also want to have a roll with it, then slice that pie in half so they have a half slice of pie with the dinner roll and pairing it with those. That's going to be a lot more beneficial in keeping those blood sugars more steady, rather than thinking one thing is forbidden for people with diabetes, because that's an absolute myth that's been debunked by science through research, that it's more about what other things can you pair with it so that it can stabilize those blood sugars a lot more. Blood sugar spikes are going to happen. The main goal is how much can we limit that spike and how can we help get that blood sugar back down into normal ranges again. So another thing is you do walk with them or ask them how they can help around the house so they keep their muscles active to soak up those blood sugars. So a main thing that people can do is maybe go on a morning walk if the weather permits, or if it's inside of the house, asking them to help set up the dinner table and moving around in preparing some of those dishes like lifting and carrying. that is going to help significantly in activating their muscles so that the blood sugars are going to move from the blood into the muscles, into the brain, and the rest of the body so that it's going to be a lot more stable throughout the day and increasing their insulin sensitivity, meaning that any medications they might be taking is going to be more effective in those situations and regards. All right, another thing, do not fat shame or carb shame anyone. So there's this myth going around thinking that, oh, sugar causes diabetes. So if you eat a lot of carbs, then that's going to cause diabetes. That is absolutely false because type 2 diabetes and prediabetes, it's a multitude of factors. It could be with some genetic causes, lifestyle causes for maybe someone is working in the night shift and they have increased stress levels because of it. That can actually trigger a response for type 2 diabetes for some people. Other times it could be, all right, they just eat a lot of food and they don't have the ability to walk or exercise. And that just means that their calories coming in is significantly more compared to what they're expending. And the increased fat mass that can increase insulin resistance and causing type 2 diabetes with a metabolic disorder. Of course, there's a whole slew of different factors that is in combination for it. And trying to slam or shame someone because of it, it's only going to make the situation worse. Because after all, these unrealistic standards that we're placing upon other people, there's a reason why they're called unrealistic standards, because it's just not helpful and it's going to be detrimental for that person. And needless to say, calling them out or fat shaming them, carb shaming them, that's only going to increase their stress response and make their blood sugars worse. And we want to avoid that as much as possible. So do not do that at all. Avoid that. Instead, do encourage mindful eating habits like drinking more water between bites of food instead of offering another slice of food if they aren't asking for it. So suggest more of those better eating habits like enjoying the food, eating more slowly till they have their fill, and being aware of their hunger and fullness cues. That's going to be a lot better in promoting them to have a more enjoyable experience. That person will know if they're still hungry. Like they will ask you if they want another slice of turkey breast or if they're going to ask for another piece of a roll. Be helpful in making sure that you promote good positive habits rather than shaming the person with it. All right. Another thing too is do not tell stories of how another family member or someone that they knew lost a limb from diabetes or some other complication. Treat the person with diabetes like they're another person rather than thinking that they have a death sentence or a horrible sentence because they have type 2 diabetes due to a story that they heard elsewhere. Like even type 1 diabetes and type 2 diabetes are completely different diseases. Sure, they both have the word diabetes in them, but the causes and mechanisms for each of them are different. So don't go assuming one thing or another thing based off of a story that you've had is going to cause those issues. Instead, do ask your family member with type 2 diabetes or prediabetes, or the friend or that person with type 2 diabetes or prediabetes on how you can support them so that their blood sugars are going to be more stable throughout the holiday season. If that means that the person is newly diagnosed, they have no idea what's going on, then suggest that they schedule a consultation with their diabetes education team. The majority of insurances will cover that service, or you could even give them a phone call for the office to see what's going on of how to be smarter, or asking for resources in being more prepared for the Thanksgiving holiday or the different holidays that are coming up. Be supportive in that way so that you can get the appropriate information from the appropriate medical providers and professionals to help them throughout that process. So another thing is do not assume that something you've read or heard on the internet is good or bad for diabetes. What works for one person doesn't mean it's going to work for someone else. Since every person is different, how they feel and respond to things are different. The trauma that they've received, if they have received any trauma back when they were younger, those all play different impacts for how someone is going to manage their diabetes. For some people, maybe the keto diet works. Maybe it doesn't work for everyone. Maybe the carnivore diet works for some people. Maybe it doesn't work for some people. Like asking a vegan who wants to promote the livelihood of animals to just go completely carnivore and go against their faiths and beliefs, that's not going to be helpful in that situation. So don't think that one thing that's read on the internet automatically translates to that person. Also, some of the information that is being projected online is misinformation or just a myth or a belief or some voodoo thing that is out there. That also goes to show that if someone is going to say, hey, this cinnamon is going to cure your diabetes, like cinnamon herbal tea is going to cure diabetes. Well, if that was going to cure diabetes, then why isn't doctors always going to recommend it? And why is it that when people do it, it still doesn't cure their diabetes, huh? Anyways, I digress. That's a rant. So instead, do leave the biases at the door and make Thanksgiving enjoyable. Everyone is struggling their own battles, so being kind and leaving the judgment on the door is going to be a lot better. And being curious, like asking the person with diabetes, like type 2 diabetes or prediabetes, like how you can support them, like being curious about what their understanding is of the disease to be a better advocate and ally for them, that's going to go a lot longer way than assuming that more than they do. There's also a good chance that that assumption is going to be more harmful than good, because maybe that person has heard that on the street so many different times that hearing it again and again and again, that's just going to lead to more stress. And as we know, prolonged stress can impact blood sugars by causing them to be a lot higher and having more insulin resistance. That is not a good time. So instead, just make it enjoyable, be curious, and just be mindful of those situations. Move a bit more frequently throughout the day. That's going to help significantly. Getting more lean protein and fiber in, promoting like drinking more water, and those combinations are going to make Thanksgiving a lot more enjoyable. And just make sure to ask plenty of questions if there's any curious points, or even fact checking and validating, is the information that you may have heard of true or not? Like asking the person with diabetes, there's a good chance that they know more information because they did go to the doctors and had more of that consultation and visits with that. So anyways, if you found this helpful, I'd appreciate it if you can subscribe. If you have any questions, leave a comment down below. Like this video if you enjoyed it. And of course, share this with someone who needs to hear this. If you do have type 2 diabetes or prediabetes, share it with that family member who needs that gentle, kind guide. Or if you yourself know someone with type 2 diabetes or prediabetes and you appreciated this video, share it with someone else who you think it would be helpful for. Anyways, thank you all so much for your continued support, and we'll see you next time in a different video. Bye.